All right, welcome to the next video in the Train Your Squirrel Dog series. Today we're going to try to go from 12 weeks all the way up to 8 months old. And we're just going to be building off what we've covered in the last two videos. We're dealing with brand new puppies, 8 to 10 weeks old, bringing them home, and how we start to crate train and start the bonding process and enforce the boundaries, telling the puppy no. And we're gonna build off of that. And really, it's a gentle easing into just more advanced is all we're gonna do. So hopefully you've got a few weeks under your belt now of the crate training, and they're sleeping, they're going a little longer, and you're starting to get some sleep. Hopefully you've taken the obedience introduction to obedience training serious. Again, the only command I really care about with a squirrel dog is come when called. And at this point, it should be a fun game. Starting out in the hallway with your kids or whatever in an area that the dog can't escape, like I covered, you're calling it to you and you're giving it treats. And we're going to slowly build off of that. Now in regards to that, whenever you hit about the 12 to 16 week area, if you've been doing this a lot, eventually you're going to see the dog understand the command and choose to ignore you. When you start seeing that after about 12 weeks old, it's okay to start easing in corrections to get compliance. Once the dog understands and chooses to disobey you, you don't want that to happen when you're coming. You don't want to let them get away with that when you're teaching them to come to you when called. So how to correct that is really going to vary on the dog. I go as very, very light on the correction as much as possible. At some point, once you realize dog understands the command, you're going to start phasing out the treats and you're just going to start expecting him to come, and he's going to choose to disobey you. Now, some dogs are softies, and a stern no and calling them to you might be all that it takes, and the dog comes to you. I'll say that you want to time the praise. Again, I have a whole video on timing of praise and correction. Is the moment that dog quits disobeying you and starts moving towards you. If you say no, it gives you the body language of denial of the command. He kind of ducks his body up and turns away, sits away from you. That's them kind of saying, oh crap, I know I'm not supposed to do this, but I don't want to do what you're telling me to do. That is the moment you time no. And then an opposite of that, you give the command again after the no. And let's just say they turn to face you and just slowly start wagging that tail. That's when you want to instantly, good. You want to encourage that good, desirable behavior. And so just use as little force as necessary. Some dogs are going to be totally fine with disobeying you, not want to do it. At that point, you're going to want to put them on a rope, and a long rope with a clip on it, clip to their leash. Hopefully you're still tying them out a little bit right now, so they're not fighting a leash as much. And you want to give them the command, and if they disobey, no, and then pull them towards you while you're giving them the command, come, whatever your command is. And the moment they start coming towards you, quit pulling them and just encourage them. Good. And we're just going to build off of that. If you're doing this and you're spending a lot of time with the pup and you're playing with the pup's going to want to come to you. You shouldn't have to spend a whole lot of time correcting. You also want to be continuing the wood walks with the dog. Again, keeping them in safe places where they can't get parvo. But just getting the dog comfortable where you're going to expect it's going to be. When you hit the 3 to 4 month, I'd say probably about 4 month when it comes to this, if you have access to it and the ability to do it, this is the time frame that I would put pup. If you can let pup run loose outside, I would let pup run loose if it's a pretty safe area and you don't have to worry about him getting hurt. That said, nothing's guaranteed. There are risks with letting a dog run loose. It could get killed by other dogs, wild animals, get hit by a car. Here in a few years, I'm going to be buying a new place and some property. And one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to chain link fence in about a 3 to 5 acre area of woods. And when my dogs hit about 4 months old, every morning when I let them out of the kennel, I'm just turning them out into that fenced in area, and I'm going to let them stay out there all day. And what we're trying to do here, this is basically your woods walks on steroids. If you live in a subdivision like I do now, you can't let a dog run loose. It's just going to be trouble. Your dog's going to get taken or killed. That's just the way it's going to be. But nothing builds confidence like a dog being allowed to run wild and free and explore. I've seen it. I've got litter mates of pups that I've given to my friends, and they were allowed to run loose, and they were, if you hit the same amount of time at like 6 or 7 months old, they were far more confident than the dogs that I had here that were staying in my backyard in the subdivision, and I could only take out to the woods several times a week on those confidence building walks. So if you can turn them into a fenced in pen, let them just spend all day out there exploring the woods and the world and reacting to things as they do, where they're semi-protected from things like coyotes and stuff like that. They're going to be far better off. If you're out in an area where you're comfortable with them running loose, that's when I would start letting them run loose. And at that point, we're watching them. One thing that can help you still maintain that come to call when you're letting them run loose like that is your feeding. If they're out in the pen, or before you go to feed your dog, you can make the recall commands. I train my dogs to come via verbal command, which is just a loud hup, hup, hup. I yell when I'm in the woods, and I also toner train them to come. Back whenever I was into bird dogs, I whistle trained them to come. You can do all of that, and if you want them to not be ignoring you out in that pen, it's just real easy. Feed them out there, adjust their feeding to out there, and just before you feed them, hit that come command. Hup, 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 hup. Then as soon as they start associating that noise with I'm about to get fed, they're gonna be tearing to you as fast as they possibly can when they're running loose or they're in a big training pen. So when they hit about 6 months old, I'm going to start putting the e-collar on them. I'm going to start conditioning them to the beep, beep, beep of the e-collar. You can start conditioning them to it earlier, but before they're 6 months old, I don't like to correct them with electronic stimulation. I don't like to shock them. So, at any point, you can put an e-collar on them, let them get used to wearing it, and you can toner train them to come. When you start give that hup, hup, hup command or whatever their come command is going to be, you can start hitting the toner button too on that and letting those beeps, letting it start associate that beep, beep, beep with the toner to the same command you give with come, and it won't be long before they understand that beep, beep, beep means come. But when they hit about 6 months old, again, if they ignore you on the e-collar, that's when it's okay to start giving them nicks, and you can do that in a controlled environment. You can go ahead and put them back on like a 50-foot rope, and beep, beep, beep. If they choose hit them with a nick. Only go up in force, the amount of force necessary to get compliance. You can turn that nick into a continuous if the nicks aren't working. Back whenever I would bird dog train, I used to just run my dogs on a pulley cable system, and I would give the come command, and I would hold down the continuous correction on the e-collar, and it would let off when they got to me. So they would learn getting to me turns the pressure off. Would I do that now? Yeah, if I had to. I don't like doing that. I don't think it's necessary, but it is effective. It did work. So if you got a dog that you have to go there with, that's one way you can go ahead and do it. So when they hit about the 6 month age and you're spending time with them, I'm watching them now hard for the signs. In the other video I have, 4 signs that your dog's ready to start hunting. I'm looking for them to have confidence when ranging out. I'm looking for that prey drive to keep in. If you're in a subdivision, now's about the time I start taking them on walks in like parks and stuff. And if you can, drop the leash and let them sight chase a little bit. Don't let them burn themselves out on it. But I'm wanting to see that prey drive. I'm wanting them to see them wanting to hunt. They got some size to them. They got some confidence. They're ranging out. They're treeing things. Whenever you start noticing that, I reward it, but I don't make it a habit. I don't start hunting them right now. When you're getting that stuff though, and you're saying, all right, everything's coming together, it's looking like it might be time to start training. This is when about between 6 and 8 months of age that I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to keep taking them on these wood walks and stuff, but I'm going to condition them to gunfire, and I have a whole nother video on how to progress from there. So, got any questions? Feel free to leave them in the comments. Again, the 10 week to the 8 month period, I just kind of gave an overview of progression for a route for you to take. It's a slow process that you just take at the pace of you and your dog. And once you get to that 6 to 8 month mark, you hopefully have all your obedience stuff trained in well. They come to you and call, they load up in the box, they're confident in the woods, and you're going to have a really, really good handling dog at this point who is ready to actually start hunting. And that's what we're going to get into next. We're going to cage trap a squirrel, and we're going to get into our first sight chases and shooting things out for the dog.